Ready to roll.
Looks like
I'm
there's
here
a-
now. Sorry.
Oh, Adam's here.
Adam is here. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. So I'm going to call the meeting of Milton Joint Review Board for August 2021 to order. And the first item on the agenda is the roll call.
Ames,
She's muted.
I saw Lori on here.
Yeah, she's muted.
Lori, you are muted.
We can
Frozen.
Gallagher,
Present.
Grigg,
Here.
Schaefer,
Here.
Ames.
I'm back again.
Okay,
All
And-
right.
Farrar is present.
Wonderful. Welcome, everyone. So on the action thing here is the first item is the election of the chairperson. Do I have the nominations?
I'll nominate you to be chair. This is Adam.
Hi, Adam. Thank you. Abby, do we need
I
a
will
second?
Schaefer will
Okay.
second that.
Okay, all right. Any other nominations? Okay, all those in favor of the nominee, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? So the motion passes. Election of the fifth member at large. I nominate John Schaefer.
I'll
Need
I'll
second.
second that. Oh,
Okay.
go ahead, Lori.
Any further nominations? Any further? All those in favor of the motion for the election of the fifth member at large, Professor John Schaefer, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? So we are, John, you are the fifth member. Yeah, so,
I'm so lucky.
okay. Item number 3, joint review board minutes for September 2020. All right, 21, 2020. Okay, so, well, you guys had a time to go through them. I did. So I think they all look good. They are as they should be. Need a motion to approve.
I'll motion
I'll
to.
Okay, I'll second then.
Okay, all right. Any question, comments, changes? We still have a time to make any change you think should be made. Otherwise, all those in favor of the approval of the joint review board minutes of September 21st, 2020, say aye.
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 Aye. So, okay, so passes unanimously.
Well, I
Item number-
abstained because I wasn't there.
Yes, okay, one abstain. So item number 4, annual report for tax incremental district number 3, and would that be Bill Burns?
Yes, Mayor, I can take this item, and I thought I
Alright.
would just very briefly go over the annual reports and projections for the city's 2 TIDs, TID 3 and TID 5. I'll be brief to be respectful of everyone's time, but happy to answer any questions. Are you able to see the screen with the TID 3 annual report?
Yes.
Okay, great. So TID 3 is the city's oldest and largest TIF district. It is nearing the end of its life. Its end of expenditure period is in 2025 and will be required to terminate by 2030. At this point, we are planning to go for the full life of the TID because of several of the existing obligations that we have for development within the TID. The starting fund balance for 2020 was 13.6 million. And looking at the revenues, the largest revenue by far is the tax increment at just under $11.3 million. Looking at expenditures for the district, we had a smaller year as far as capital projects for the district. A lot of our costs at this point for this district in 2020 were related to the principal on debt and then the developer payments. The city's been relying very heavily on developer finance TIF to limit the risk for the city. And as we've had success in the TIF district and several projects built, we have quite a number of TIF agreements where we are making pay-as-you-go developer finance TIF payments. I wanted to point out on the debt that the existing debt for TID 3 is almost completely repaid. We had principal payments of just under 1.7 million in 2020. After that, there's only 345,000 remaining in debt, which will be paid off by the end of 2022. The end balance at the end of the year was 18.6 million. We are projecting that there will be a balance at the end of the district. There's a lot of assumptions built into that. We still have about 8 years to run. So how much additional development occurs and what additional projects are will certainly affect this number. But right now in the annual report, we're projecting an ending balance of around $25 million for the TIF district. I'm gonna switch from the annual report over to our annual TIF model. So I can just mention a couple highlights as we look to the future.
Does anybody have question for Bill for this part of the report? Bill, I do have one question that professional services, that is essentially Vanderwall and Associates, or is it more than that? That is 363,125.
That would include any professional services paid by the TIF district. So Vanderwall as the planning consultant, Strand as our TIF engineer, legal, and if there would be any other outside consultants needed on particular projects.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I now have up our TIF pro forma summary, which is our TIF model showing projections going forward. And just a couple things I wanted to highlight on here. When we look at the sources of funds and tax increment, we have the 11.2 million, 11.3 million in 2020. We're expecting that to go up in 2021. There'll be a dip in 2022, and that's a result of the TIF subtraction amendment that was approved last year, which will affect this 2021 tax year and revenues in 2022. As you may recall from last year, we did a large subtraction of around $130 million from the TID, and that will be coming available as general tax base. So as a result, we'll see a decrease in our increment for the district, but as you can see from the projections, we're expecting that that will continue to increase based on current projects that are planned and in the pipeline. We are also projecting a potential additional TIF borrowing for planning purposes looking at 2023 of about $12 million, and that would be related to the Pleasant View Road reconstruction project on the west side of Middleton. That is a very major reconstructing and widening of that thoroughfare, which is going to provide a critical connection into Madison and to several of the business areas on the west side of Middleton. That's in the ballpark of a $20 million project. And so that is planned with land acquisition starting shortly, and then construction in 22 and 23, and looking at potential borrowing as well as federal funding coming in to help pay for that project. We also have some assumptions of additional projects for the remaining life of the TIF, including looking at potential additional work in the downtown and items related to a city civic campus. Our fund balances are projected to remain strong. And again, based on all the assumptions in the model, we're projecting around $25 million at the end of the TID. Are there any questions on TID 3 before I go over to TID 5?
Any questions for Bill? I think it looks pretty good to me. Bill does a great job.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, all right, let's go to the next item. That's item number 5, that's step 5. Wow, that's good.
Bring that up. Okay, so you're now seeing the, there we go. So the TID 5 annual report, which was included in the packet. TID 5 had, as you may recall, started with a slower level of development. It was created around the time of the Great Recession, and so there wasn't a lot of activity in the first few years. There are some advances that were made between TIF District number 3 and TIF District number 5. So if we look at the start of the fund balance in the beginning of 2020, it shows a negative 3.9 million. There were advances made from TID 3 to TID 5 of about 4.7 million, which provided cash flow for the district. One of those advances was specifically related to the purchase of property where the Conservancy Bend development is taking place on Parmenter Street in Middleton. And during 2020, the city sold the land that it had acquired for redevelopment. And we have sale proceeds that came in during 2020 of 2.6 million. And 2.6 million of those advances were repaid. So the fund balance did improve during 2020. We had a borrowing in 2020, a little over $7 million. That was a refinancing. So that will help lower costs for the district or for the TID going forward. If I go to the expenditure side, again, it was a smaller year for capital projects within the TID. We do have that principal being paid as part of the refinancing. Some development payments that are starting up. And we have had a lot of additional development that is under construction in 2020 that will bring on additional increment as well as additional developer finance payments as we go into 2021 and 2022. So the ending balance of the TIF district for TID 5 was a negative 990,000 at the end of 2020. There were still advances between TID 3 to TID 5 of a little over 2 million, which provided the TIF district with about $1 million of available cash. This TID annual report was put together before we did the modeling for the TIF subtraction in TID 5, which we're going to be talking about. So I just wanted to point out that the number shown here as potential surplus of the district of 18 million, we are projecting that that is going to be lower, both as a result of the TIF amendment that we're doing, as well as looking at assumptions about additional development and additional project costs. We're projecting an ending balance for the district of about 5.7 million at this point. There's a lot of years to go. This TIF district runs through 2036, so there's a lot of assumptions that could change, and I expect that number to change over time as we get closer to the end point. Any questions on 2020 before I go to the model?
Any questions for Bill? For either TIF 3 or TIF 5 or any other? Bill is ready for anything. Okay, all right. Let's go to item number 6.
But Mayor, if you could, before you move on, I did want to just share a screen with the TIF 5 projection model and make a couple.
Okay, sure. Let's go. Thank you.
Okay, so this is our model, very similar to TIF district number 3. Want to point out in the tax increment column that we've seen a big increase from 2019 to 2020 and some larger increases projected in 21 and 22. And that's a result of additional development projects that are coming online. We have several projects underway, including the Conservancy Bend project that I had mentioned on Parmenter. We have the Tresta Middleton Market Aviary project, which is nearing completion. We have a Cardinal View senior housing project and some other smaller projects. So we are finally starting to see a lot of activity in this TID. That's increasing the increment coming in, as well as our development finance incentives. This model was put together based on the items included in the proposed project plan amendment. So the additional parcels coming in and subtractions and the project costs are reflected in this model. We're also projecting some additional borrowing being needed in the future, depending on the timing of those projects. And if I can go over to the fund balance, just wanted to point out that we are projecting that we will start to see positive fund balances within the district. The district will be able to repay that $2 million advance that's still out there. And based on all of the assumptions in the project plan amendment, at this point, we're projecting an ending balance of 5.7 million. I know that was really quick. If there's questions or anyone wants me to go back and go through anything in more detail, I'd be happy to.
Any questions for Bill? I know there are a lot of numbers. So we have gone over these many times at various meetings, but if you have any questions, the best part is that we do end up with some cash at the end, which all the jurisdiction can have part of. Having money is always better than not having it, so that's a good news. So, okay, so no more questions for Bill? Bill, wow, what an awesome job. No questions. So do we go to item number 6 now, Abby? That would be Bill and you together, or you?
We're gonna have our consultant, Jeff Maloney from
Oh, all
Van
right,
Wall.
all right. Jeff, go ahead. Jeff is ready.
Thank you, Mayor. Can everyone hear me okay?
Now the Jeff Maloney, he's our consultant. He's with Vanderwall and Associates, he's principal, and he's going to walk us through what's proposed. Go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. As Bill was saying, part of the goal of TID 5 was to get a bit more cash flow and free up some more land for development that could bring more employment to the district and take out some land that we know won't redevelop over time. So that's what this amendment really focuses on. We're not changing the spending plan. It's more of a boundary amendment. So existing TID 5 boundaries you can see on the screen goes from essentially Highway 12 on the west side all the way through the Conservancy to the lake, to Lake Mendota on the east side by Allen Boulevard. The existing project plan was created in 2009. As Bill said, it goes to 2036. We have an estimated 104 million in project costs. There are some different project costs in this plan, but they won't change. Estimated value creation was 900 million. That's been reduced a bit as Bill's cash flow. The base value is 89 million. So some of the goals in this district were to improve stormwater management, redevelop blighted properties. This is a blight district. Add affordable housing, which I think the city has done a good job of, near employment centers, promote sustainable infill development, and improve vehicular and pedestrian circulation. So in this amendment, we are subtracting 36 parcels that we don't think will redevelop. So we will be taking that out of the 2009 base value, and we're adding 63 parcels at the same time. Now we're over the 12% base value for the city. So 12% of the value of the city is in a TID. So because of that, the DOR will let us add new property to the district, but we need to remove that equal amount of value from the base. And so that base.
Jeff, we lost your audio. All right, let's just give Jeff a minute to get his connection back and I'll send him a quick. Oh, Jeff. I'll send him a text message.
All right. Well, that's things happen with technology. So it's amazing what we can do, but it's amazing what can happen. So.
While we're waiting for Jeff, I can just touch on a couple of the numbers on the screen here and talk about the thought for the amendment. So when we did the TIF amendment for TID 3 and did a TIF subtraction, our main goal there was to try to take as many projects that had already developed out of the TID and return tax base to all of the different taxing jurisdictions. With the TID 5 proposed amendment, there would be some value that would be coming out. And as indicated on the slide, it's about 7.4 million. But one of our main goals here was to look at, as Jeff was starting to say, take areas out that are not likely to redevelop in the remaining life of the TID, and to add parcels in that do have additional development potential so that we can maximize the ability to get new development within the life of the TID. And it looks like Jeff's back, so I'll turn it back to him.
All right.
I was just going on and on. I don't know what slide I lost you at.
Yeah, it's just 7.4 million, which is coming back to the taxing jurisdiction, which is a good news for Madison College school system, as well as the county.
So Bill finished up that last slide that we left off on, Jeff. There we go. This is the next
This one? Okay, well, it's pretty close. So we understand the base value. I think Bill probably mentioned that, the 12%.
I didn't actually mention that, but because we're limited to our total value that can be within TIDs, to do an addition, we also had to make sure that we were subtracting at least the same amount of base value that we would be adding.
Right. So the 7.4 million is essentially the increment of those 36 parcels that's been created since 2009. So that'll go back to the taxing jurisdictions. And then the base value of the new parcels is that 19.1 million. So here's the map. The purple areas are the areas that we'd like to add to the district. And there's some on the kind of all areas of the district. And I'll zoom in on those so you can see them better. And the yellow areas are the areas that we'd like to subtract. Oops. So the subtraction area is by Allen Boulevard and Century Avenue, if you're familiar with the area. That AB on the top, that's CVS and a bank. There's a large Spring Tree Apartments. There's a Quick Trip, Starbucks. Properties that we know won't be redeveloped. We are proposing to remove those. They have a higher base value and allows us to get to some more blighted areas of the community that need real investment. There's a area along Allen Boulevard. This is always an area in TID 5. Now we added a few more parcels that recently have become on the market. We're connecting to the lake and also connecting over to University Avenue, which will connect those two employment centers and retail centers of the community. Here's down on University Avenue. For context, like number 31 is the Club Tavern. We get to the west side is where Middleton Bowl is. East side is just basically up to Dunn's Auto. So there's some underutilized properties in this area. A lot of the platting in the area itself makes it economically blighted just due to the size and the ability to combine parcels into larger projects. There's currently the city has a University Avenue corridor plan underway. So that'll have recommendations that this TIF plan will help implement some of those recommendations over time. Then Nursery Drive area is on the west side of Highway 12 and Airport Road. This area is currently in TID 3. It's large. Some of it has development on it, which is blighted, underutilized, especially at the interchange. But 7, 8, 9 are empty parcels that are on the market but have yet to develop. So we think that adding more time to that district by bringing them into TID 5 will help them develop over time. And then the last area is Graber Pond. Number 11 has interest for development, which will allow us to extend Bellefontaine Road through the area, connecting the Middleton Operations Center to the north part of the community, which is a safety issue. And then 12 and 13 parcels will help with stormwater management, which is always a concern. And a goal of the city is to treat and infiltrate water before it gets to our lakes and our conservancy area. Again, I mentioned this is a blight district, so we did a blight study to determine that at least 50% of the district remains blighted, and that can be economically blighted. It doesn't have to be just by appearance. We gave all the property owners notices, and we did receive one comment back, which we've already incorporated into the next draft. So when you do the analysis, 61% essentially of the district remains blighted. So we are in compliance with that part of the statute. As Bill mentioned, we have a couple of new projects. A, B, C, D, or A through G includes acquisition of a potential green space to add to the conservancy and the and stormwater management over by Parmenter. And then a lot of the other areas are related to University Avenue, which would be a new area of the TIF. So allowing for transit improvements, potential expansion of the BRT, utilities, utility upgrades to allow for development, potential parking, public parking areas, Lake Street improvements by the boat launch, expansion of Bellefontaine, and then improvements to the Pheasant Branch Conservancy. This is Bill's cash flow, which you just saw. We won't go through this again, but it does show that we did re-look at, run the projected development numbers. We changed the development a bit on what was remaining in the district, and we do have a positive cash flow at the end of the year, or at the end of the district. So the next steps would be the public hearing is Tuesday at the Plan Commission. September 7th is the council meeting. And then one of the goals today, one of the agenda items is to determine when the final JRB meeting would be. Any questions? I can go back to the map if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, this is important now. So any questions for Jeff? I know we went through quickly. And for some of us, like a second nature now, but if you have any questions, or if you like Jeff to go over anything, this would be good time. Wow, Jeff, great job. It looks like, so we stopped at Dunn's
Ask
Auto.
a question or?
Oh, okay. Please raise your hand if you have any questions. Yeah, go ahead. That was
trying to
Lori.
figure out where it is. Wait, there it is.
Mayor
Okay, so-
Gretchen
Can I
has
ask a question?
Well, Abby, could she ask? She's not the member of the joint review.
She's a plan commission member. I think it'd be
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Gretchen.
So I just have a question because I'd like to clarify before there's a meeting that I'm in. Along the Lake Mendota Allen Boulevard corridor, what is happening with those plots that are being added 14, 15, all the way up through, I can't read that number, maybe
Yeah, 14,
26.
15, 16.
Are those
and
going to be for the green space or is
Yeah, so
that for development or is that for green space?
No, that's a very good question. So 14, 15, 16 up at the top and 18, those all have development on them. Some is parking areas. A lot of that is related to the athletic club. Those may have infill development over time, maybe like 14, 15. I think 16 and 19 will probably remain parking, but there might be improvements to that area. 19 is actually a city-owned parking lot behind the athletic club, which many people don't realize is city-owned. People do use it for boat storage for the launch sometimes. 20 through 28, that's all zoned open space, city open space. So that'll remain open space, but we think there might be opportunity for some stormwater improvements in that area. 28 is part of the park, and that really is just included as part of Lakeview Park. That's included to get contiguous parcel connection to University Avenue. So as part of the TIF district,
Okay,
all the
thank you.
parcels need to be touching, and so that's our connection to University Avenue. So none of the underlying zoning or
Got it.
land use would really change in those open space areas.
Thank
So
you.
your question may be about side number 4, that's Captain Bill's, I think, right? Is that,
15 is Captain Bill's.
and what's, yeah, I guess 14 is the parking lot, right?
Correct.
Okay. So well, they both are for development, so. And 16 is those 2 lots there. I forget that, Carmen's property, I suppose, so. And what is 18? 18 is a lot of those boat homes or not?
17 and 18 are 2 single-family homes.
Oh, okay, that's the Carmen. Okay, all right.
Yeah, and then 16 is Spring Harbor
Okay.
Athletic
Okay.
parking lot.
Yep. Any further question on anything which Jeff has presented? Now, we don't need any motion, Abby, right? Or do we?
That's correct. Yeah, we don't need a motion. This is just the initial presentation.
Well, any questions about anything which has been presented? Wow, great job. So we are now to item number 7, set next meeting date and time. Pull out your calendars, folks. So let's go over it. So, or Abby, how are you going to handle it?
I have 4 dates to propose. So if we just want to kind of start with the first one, this date has already been checked with Vanderwall and with the city staff.
Okay,
Tuesday, September 21st at 4 p.m. And if that doesn't work, we can go to number 2.
it works for me.
Works for me.
All
Works-
right.
Works
So
for Adam. Does it work for you, John, Lori, and Lori?
Works for me.
It works for John.
I can make it work.
Okay, wow, boy, this is a great group of people. So, okay, 21st at 4 p.m.
That was too easy.
Okay, so, well, anybody wants to share any news before we adjourn? Sing songs or tell stories or, or, you know, anything else you want to share?
You
Well,
should take all meetings this long.
all right, the way to go. So then need a motion to adjourn,
I move.
need a
I'll
second. Okay. Any questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion to adjourn, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, go and have an awesome day and wonderful weekend.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Everybody.